Welcome in to the latest episode of the Need for Seeds College Basketball Podcast, presented by the pregame.com podcast network. I'm your host, real_G Warner. If you're watching us live on video or on a recorded version of the video, you would see us lifting our shirts like we were Marshall Henderson in the jungle. Well, we do have an Ole Miss game that we're going to talk about in this card. We're going through 5 games. We're recording on Tuesday, January 21st for the Wednesday, January 22nd card. And we will be with you twice per week the rest of this season now that college football season is over. Congratulations to Ohio State Buckeyes, though the wrong team won the national championship. Big East Ben, what do you think of the closeout of the college football season as we bridge into college basketball?
If you're going to kick a field goal down 16, make sure you make it.
Good idea. With all the stories of the chiropractor fixing the groin injury of his son, and then one of the louder doinks I've ever heard. Not great, but defensive coaches just forever could use some Madden kids. I think
Jeter's dad's a chiropractor.
I
That was the story.
I feel like you're messing with me here. Are you messing with me?
I haven't heard that.
Literally every Dame game of this playoff system, they had said how his dad fixed his kicking stroke, which is similar to a golf stroke, by putting his back in better alignment, and that's what made him able to kick field goals all of a sudden during the college football playoff. Didn't work so well there. It still was a pretty close game, but Marcus Freeman also was interesting. Molly McGrath was so loud to shout him out as the first black head coach to make the college football playoff final or any sort of national title game. It was really weird that she kind of left out the Asian part too, because he's also Korean. So
His mom.
that didn't make a lot of sense to me that they were so, I mean, I guess because there's a lot more black players than Asian players potentially, but that's probably a different podcast on a different network coming up later, and we'll see if we actually make it. But so on this card, we're going to go through 5 of the top college basketball games for the Wednesday, January 22nd. We'll be with you, just a programming note. We'll give you, of course, a best bets, our best bets end of show, but also a promo code. Plus, we will be doing Tuesday nights for Wednesday and or Thursday the first 2 weeks as we adjust to our twice a week schedule. And then we're going Mondays and Fridays recording for basically the midweek and then the weekend, and specifically Saturday usually, unless we can get some good Sunday games. And that'll be our schedule the rest of the season all the way through the national title games. So get ready, buckle in. It's time for the Need for Seeds College Basketball Podcast. And so let's start on this first game on our list with Texas A&M visiting Ole Miss. Currently, Texas A&M 4-point favorites, or excuse me, 4-point underdog at Ole Miss. Oops, that would have been really bad to say. What do you think about this one, Benny boy?
Wade Taylor, the Quattro, is back for Texas A&M. He returned with their win over LSU. Thought they played pretty well without him. They won that game at Oklahoma, showed some fight versus Alabama at home, only lost by 6,
Yep.
and then was okay at Rupp. But I mean, for without your floor general and your point guard, I think that's a pretty good showing. And they've already proven the mettle on the road. Like that Oklahoma comeback was very impressive. They also beat Purdue in a semi-neutral game in Indianapolis. And I think I don't know, Ole Miss, they're undersized. They struggle with more physical teams. Like they got their ass kicked by Memphis. They kind of got pushed around by Mississippi State, ended up coming back but losing overtime. Um, I just think Texas A&M has the profile and of a team that can just win on the road with their defense and their offensive rebounding and their physicality. Um, Ole Miss just 4-4 against the spread at the SIP this year, or whatever they call their basketball arena. So I mean, A&M two big advantages. First, in offensive rebounding, going against the 162nd defensive rebounding unit. 21st in foul shooting attempts, going against the 266th unit in defensive preventing foul attempts. So I'm going to back Buzz's guys here. I think they have the makeup. I think they have the mentality to win on the road. I know you will disagree with me, but go Aggies.
Yeah, I will not be saying that anytime in this lifetime, I don't think. But unless I have a long shot ticket on Buzz to win the national championship, but I just don't think I'll do it. So my issues with Texas A&M, beyond the fact that they are a rival of my alma maters, but I usually don't care because you'll see most of my bets are against Texas in college basketball. I think my problem with A&M is that they rely so much on this offensive rebounding, which is really to me a derivative of not being a very good offense. Certainly with Wade Taylor back, that's a very different story. I'm a little surprised with Wade Taylor back that the numbers as big as it is. Currently 4 point favorites. Or excuse me, 3.5 point favorites are Ole Miss as it's kind of jockeying as we speak. Wouldn't you think with Wade Taylor back in this lineup that the A&M number might be a little bit smaller than this?
No, Ole Miss is 17th in Ken Palm. They really shot up the charts.
Yeah, I think Ole Miss and Chris Beard, because his defense is don't let you get in the paint, and I think that's going to mean a lot of long shots for Texas A&M. Which if they're going to miss a lot of them, then of course they're going to have offensive rebound opportunities. I just don't really want to back that away from home, especially. I mean, yes, getting outside of possession is significant, but it's not really enough for me just yet. So I'll take Ole Miss for our eventual graphic, but. Certainly be waiting to see if there's some money that comes in on A&M side as it's currently minus 115 at Bet Online. So we might see, I mean, as this number gets closer to pick 'em, I think I'm more interested in Ole Miss. Certainly at three, a lot more interested than 3.5. Move next to Kansas at TCU. And as I pull up this number, very interesting to see KU. I kind of was really down on them coming into conference play, and they've kind of shut me up, or maybe that's because the rest of the Big 12 is not that strong. Currently, Kansas a 6.5 point favor on the road at TCU. My guess was way off. Total's 136 in this matchup.
So Kansas, I mean, they've recovered to a degree. They blew out UCF. They killed Arizona State at home. All that game was close in the second half. Um,
Trail
held
at home.
Cincinnati to 40 points in their own building.
Yep.
No shame getting blown out at in via Hilton Magic, and then took care of Kansas State at home. TCU is like they they're like the walking wounded. I mean, they lost Frankie Collins. Really, the only guy who can score on the team is Noah Reynolds, who I'm sure Mr. Gottlieb would love to have for this season. Transfer from Green Bay. So here's the deal, Griffin. TCU can show some fight at home. I thought they showed a lot of fight on the road. I watched that whole Houston game and they ran out of gas, but they were in it most of the game. Um, Kansas unders 15-2 on the season. They play lights out defense. They swallow teams whole. They play at a pretty methodical, deliberate pace themselves. I don't know how TCU is going to score on them. I'm going to go under 136.
I like that thought process. So for me, TCU, or at least what I've watched with Jamie Dixon, is they never really have the strongest offense out there. So they're trying to find points either through offensive rebounding because they don't shoot very well, or from an electric pace, trying to run as fast as they can, as much as they can. I think at home that probably helps them out a lot more. I think the 6.5 feels pretty big to me, considering at least where my guess was going to be, though Kansas has certainly beaten me pretty badly in a couple of my plays so far this year. You mentioned two of them so far with Central Florida and with Cincinnati. Cincinnati to me, I mean, I think that's just like at this point, we can't trust their offense at all. And so that makes me wonder if that's really a KU defense thing or if it's just the Cincinnati inability to make shots. They essentially added Dylan Mitchell, who Texas transfer, who couldn't make a shot to save his life, a free throw, any sort of thing that's not a dunk. And now he's a starter in that lineup forever, and it's really Lukosius and no other 3 point shooters. So I wonder if Kansas's defense is a little bit overvalued. I'm not going to say that I'm expecting TCU to put up a ton of points, though, because they're pretty much, I think, a Kansas transfer, and Ernest Uday is their center, is their basically their best player. No point guard's a problem. I think at that 6.5, it's certainly a big number on a home team, but that does put you in the foul disaster late. And so I think I'll join you on under 136 in this matchup. and would advocate any of you playing unders to look at first half, maybe a split between first half and game to avoid the late fouls and potential overtimes, because those certainly are a kick in a place you don't want to be kicked.
And just that note on tempo. So 2023, they were 48th in tempo. Last year, they were 64th in tempo. This season, 229th in tempo, which actually mirrors what Dixon played his first few years at the helm. They were a very slow team. Wow, he's been there since 2017. It's been that long. That's crazy.
World. World, yeah. I think he was really the slick back hair guy and is still holding on for dear life to it. Once upon a time, Pitt decided they wanted him out of there and got Kevin Stallings, and how well that worked out. But I guess Jeff K,
No, no, he wanted out of Pitt.
he left because they wanted him out.
Shaka Smart situation.
I think that's why he went back to his alma mater, because that was an available job. I think the rumor was that he always wanted to get back to LA because he's from there, but I don't think you go back to TCU, which was I think a disaster of a program then, unless you'd went there, because I think he would have stayed at Pitt if he could have. But yeah, I don't know that there was like a trade necessarily made, but I think the move was to get him out, and that's why he fled to Fort Worth. But I'm not sure that ever would be published or something like that in the same way the Shaka Smart exodus was another great move by the Texas administration. We'll move next to the Big East. Speaking of, we have Xavier, 7 point, excuse me, I had them 7 point underdogs. They're 7.5 point underdogs in the marketplace currently, and a little bit more juice on the St. John's side right now. So Xavier goes to the Johnnies. What do you think about this one, especially with the recent, I don't know what to say about Xavier, but they seemingly seem to find wins late in games in Big East play this last week.
Well, they beat Marquette. They
Yep.
beat Marquette at five serve. Shot 2 of 17 from three and beat Marquette.
How do you explain it?
It was one of those games where I was watching on tape, and 10 minutes went by in the first half, and I got so frustrated that I fast forwarded to the last 10 minutes. And then, similar to how I played the DePaul game, Marquette's DePaul game. Um, I mean, Marquette was just so sloppy with the ball, just a ton of uncharacteristic turnovers. I don't even think it was like Xavier's pressure, and just fell asleep defending the paint. A lot of backdoor cuts for X. Cam Jones was awful. Uh, yeah, it was just they just came out sleepy. Xavier blitzed them, built a 19-point lead in the second half, and it was just too much for Marquette to come back by.
Because I'm looking at Xavier, they're currently at 203rd in the nation in turnover rate defense. So I've never seen them as a serious turnover forcing type of team, but I guess it worked on the road at Marquette, though their turnover numbers weren't super high, only at just under 20%, which I guess is actually pretty good for Xavier. They got a lot of red in their turnover force department so far this season. Last two games, though, turned Villanova over almost 22% of possessions. Marquette just above 19. So maybe they're turning into some defense we haven't seen all season. What do you think about, I guess, because this is a rematch of Xavier losing to St. John's by 10 points at home at the Cintas Center just earlier this month, 2 weeks ago, almost to the exact day. St. John's led throughout and had, you want to guess the offensive rebounding rate that St. John's had in their game at Xavier away from home?
Was it 20-7?
Uh, I'm saying percentages. Do you want to make a guess on what it was? I'll give you a hint. It's large.
47%.
Very good. I feel like that was a really incredible guess, and I wonder how you guessed it almost exactly there. Just wish it was.
Yeah, St. John shot the lights out too, 2 of 16 from three.
Well, that's the strategy. Buzz Williams loves it too. You just miss a ton of shots and you get a bunch of rebounds. But I do think that in watching the Xavier, actually, this is gonna get me started on a rant for Fox Sports. If you are trying to trust Fox Sports to upload games after they broadcast them, do not, because they put them up They have games up from literally the 4th of January. It's January 21st, and they don't have games from last week. It literally drives me absolutely insane because my strategy is to try to watch as many games as I can about teams I'm about to bet. And so then I essentially wait to watch the games I've actually put money on to try in some form or fashion to like be able to watch it without the stress of being like, okay, who am I betting in 12 minutes? Well, it really doesn't work when Fox takes shit down unexplicably, inexplicably, whatever that word is, and it really grinds my gears at Big East Ben. And I gotta say, from the 11 minutes I watched the recap of Xavier and Villanova, it seemed to me that Xavier at home in the same situation as St. John's still played their small four guy, but like ultimately Swain wasn't dominated by a St. John's team like Villanova, I thought was a much better offense in the game. I watched St. John's fully, but the St. John's Xavier game fully. But St. John's is really good at offensive rebounding and dominated that game, and that's why they like Xavier had no chance. So now on the road, Xavier isn't at home in the Cintas Center where they play a lot differently away, besides barring one example at Fiserv where Marquette, who has basically not lost in forever and finally decided not to show up one game. Do you think that that sort of thing can change? Because to me, like, there's like part of my matchup handicapper or whatever I would call myself in college basketball is saying, okay, this team likes to do this, this team likes to do this team can't defend this team is perfect at this. And to me, like that doesn't change. Like all of a sudden, unless Xavier goes with a different lineup and plays two big men, which I don't even know that they have. Like I don't think John Hughley's ever going to play next to Zach Fremantle, really, or at least for not extended periods of time unless they're forced into it because there's a huge sickness going through the team. So like Xavier, can they really say in practice, oh, we're going to get some better defensive rebounding away from home? Or do you think that's just something that St. John's is going to crush them on? Because they're only 7.5 point favorites and they won by 10 at Xavier.
Yeah, but Xavier shot 4 of 18 from three. That's 22%. They're a 38% three-point shooting team, 26th in the country. Also, their stud, Ryan
Yeah.
Conwell? Is it Cromwell? Conwell. I always want to say
Yes, he
Cromwell.
had a million points against Xavier. Conwell, yes. Ryan Conwell, the
Against Nova.
Indiana straight transfer, yes. Killed
Yeah,
Nova.
I mean, he's their stud. He had 9 points, 1 of 8 from three in that game, too. So he could show out. Listen, Griffin, Xavier unders away from the Cintas Center, 7-1. They don't go for the offensive boards. They get back in transition. They're going to limit the fast break for St. John's. St. John's still can't shoot the three. I doubt Xavier's going to make on the road. I think this will be a low-scoring Big East slobber knocker. I'm going under the very outrageous total of 149.
I'll join you. It's going to be bad for the graphic. We're going to have a lot of U's as opposed to logos, apparently. Uh, Next on our list, we'll go a little bit west to Nevada at Utah State, or pretty far west, I guess, from Madison Square Garden or Carnesecca Arena. Currently, Utah State 6 point favorites to Nevada. A big Mountain West game. I don't know if Mountain West Ben is still chained under the staircase, but I feel like we haven't talked as much Mountain West this year, maybe because they haven't had big Saturday games as much as we'd expect them to, or maybe the conference isn't as good. Sorry to say that as I duck from something being thrown across the way. Yeah, that look is what I was expecting. Maybe it's because
It
Colorado.
isn't as good. It is. You're right. It's not as good. I mean, Nevada's been down. Nevada and Boise State have really underperformed expectations. And in terms of teams that have outperformed expectations, you're looking at the home team here. It's Utah State. They are coming off a loss. They dropped one at UNLV, which I watched the end of that game, and they were just missing shots like crazy. And UNLV was really doing a good job of clogging the paint and preventing those shots at the rim, which Utah State loves to get. And Nevada's got a very tall team. I mean, Nick Davidson is 7'1". They got, who's the other big guy? Well, Nick Davidson 6'10", Kobe Sanders 6'9". They have
Yeah,
two 6'10" guys coming off the bench. They're a big team. They're the fourth tallest team in the country. And they do a really good job of preventing those looks at the rim. Utah State, incredibly reliant on two-pointers, 17th in the country in two-point shooting. Nevada 75th in the country in 2-point defense. I don't know what, like, Nevada's 38th in the country and 15th in the country in 3-point shooting, but they're 252nd in 3-point attempts. It's like, dude, Steve, look at your offense. Look at the shooters you have. What are you doing? Given all that, I like Nevada. They're on a bit of a streak. They won 3 in a row, but I'm not going to fade Utah State at home. Their atmosphere is incredible. Those Mormons going to basketball games like uh, doing coke for the Mormons out there. Um,
Uh, cola, the cola,
so
the cola.
so I'm going to go under again. Under, what do you got the under at?
141 and a half.
1.5. Nevada's going to slow it down, get back in transition. They're going to prevent Utah State from getting those rebounds. I don't know how they're going to shoot. I don't want to fade Utah State, but I think this is going to be another low scoring game similar to the UNLV game plan, which was in the 120s.
All right, I'm gonna go Utah State, and I'll lay the 6 points. Nevada with a very tall lineup, as you mentioned. Kobe Sanders, their point guard at 6'9", is gonna help you be one of the tallest teams in the land. I think the Utah State just I don't know how they do it. It honestly feels like some sort of like black devil magic that they run, and they get a new coach every year. Like their most recent from Youngstown State, I think took the Penguins to maybe one NCAA tournament or never did. But who cares? All they did was keep Falslev and Ian Martinez and Isaac Johnson, 7-footer, and add some whatever's around them, and they're just awesome again with, I'm sure, the same NIL that Texas offers to their basketball team. Just kidding, unlikely. So I'll back the home court. It's a great environment, as you said. Students are back as we have crossed into second semester or quarter system. I think Pac-12 or RIP was used to do that. So I guess we'll go semesters only from now on. So I'll lay the points of Utah State, and we'll move on to a big matchup, which looked like a best bet winner from Big East Ben on last week's episode. You got any takes on the end of the Auburn Georgia matchup before we get into this game?
So I've been very vocal about how many bad beats I've had go against me and how little dumb luck I've had go for me. The one dumb luck bet I've had out of now 140 plus bets I've tweeted out and we've reviewed on the season. The one dumb luck bet I had all year was Poulakidis for Yale at the buzzer against Minnesota to cover. And that, by the way, Yale was covering up until the prior possession, the entire game. So like that wasn't even really like dumb luck. Georgia, Auburn was dumb luck. First off, Auburn got off to a 24-8 lead. So I was immediately kicking myself. You're an idiot. Why the hell did you fade Auburn, you moron, you bozo, you dummy? Georgia claws back, but then just stupid turnovers, blowing layups, and it's under a minute left, and Georgia's down by 6, and and the Hot Pettifers going for the line, 92% foul shooter. I'm like, I'm cooked. Makes the first, makes a 7-point game, bricks the second. Georgia comes down, makes a layup, makes it a 5-point game. They foul Denver Jones. The announcer goes, and Denver Jones is their best foul shooter. I'm like, they got a guy that shoots better than 92%? Are you kidding me? Denver Jones goes to the line, makes the first one, bricks the second one. Georgia throws in an absolute prayer from 3. Auburn goes back. So I'm like, holy shit, it's going to work. I'm going to get some dumb luck. I'm going to get a dumb luck best bet winner. Fast forward. Georgia go to the foul line, down by 3. Guy makes the first one, misses the second. They get the rebound. They chuck up a 3, misses, buzzer, game over. I'm like, sweet, I got this. No, no, no. They call the foul. Georgia back to the foul line. And I'm like, is this going to go? No. I screwed it up. Anyway, it was a long time ago. Essentially, Asa Newell had a wide open layup, like put back off an inbounds play with 0.9 seconds left to send it to overtime. And he bricked it off the front of the rim. So thank God for that. Yeah, shouldn't have hit, but it did hit, and I'm not going to apologize to anybody because I've had such a shit run of luck this year.
Yeah, I'm literally just watching it finish right now. It was not as easy of a putback as you made it sound. And your love for calling every missed shot or free throw bricking it is especially funny. Definitely pushed guys straight in his back to get the ball. I don't know how that's not called. But yeah, the 6 point underdog that somehow finds their way to get inside the number and then goes to overtime is literally the like position exhibit A on how you get screwed betting college basketball. But
And
that's
I also got very lucky with Dylan Cardwell going out with cramps and just sitting on his ass the entire second half with a machine gun, the Theragun.
mm,
Um, hey, Auburn training staff, maybe try something else. He was just sitting there doing his Theragun to himself the entire second half. Never came back in the game.
well, I freaked out because I turn it on, I see Janai Broom in his jersey, and I'm
Oh
like,
yeah,
what is going on here? And then I see his chain. I'm like, that's not legal.
in
Uh,
sweats.
yeah, I think the Theragun. I remember my an ex-girlfriend of mine bought me the Theragun, and I barely used it, and then I just would always come home to her using it, and I was like, what are you doing with that little thing over there, huh? But yeah, we'll get now to this actual game. Good to hear that one of us got a best bet winner. I'm still tabulating my record in the background. I think it's still pretty good, but I did not get a win with Kentucky last weekend. Georgia 2.5 point underdogs right now, speaking of on the road at Arkansas, total 141 and a half points.
Cal, Johnny boy, what are you doing? 0-5. Razorbacks are 0-5 in SEC play. They've lost five straight. Not looking good in Fayetteville. I'm sure a lot of Tyson Chickens executives are not too happy with how they have spent their money over the past 6 months since that hiring was announced.
Why do you go
Um,
Tyson chicken? Is there something to that more than the obvious Walmart connection?
I think I don't know.
I didn't know if there was something I missed,
You're
but
the SE, you're the SEC guy.
yeah, I am. I would just would assume that literally when I went to Fayetteville and everything is somehow wall related or come and go. Those are the two things I remember the most from the town. As not to bring up the past though by any means, or past episodes of the Need for Seeds College Basketball Podcast presented by the Pregame.com Podcast Network. Um, but yeah, to me, it seems like it's all Walmart money or Waltons or whatever they're doing when they're not owning the Denver Broncos, which I guess could run for them to the playoffs while still paying Russell Wilson's ridiculous contract. Um, I think Arkansas, to me, I mean, they and honestly, I think it's a knock we've had on Coach Cal forever is that when his team is not better than the other opponent by like leaps and bounds by a wide margin they really struggle to win. 2.5 points is a really small spread, though, at home in the SEC.
Yeah, I mean, I think Arkansas can get it done here. Georgia is so loose with the ball, man. Their guards are absolutely clueless with how to dribble. One guard got trapped in the corner and just dribbled the ball about like went to dribble and the ball was like 2 feet out of like just no court awareness whatsoever, dribbling off their foot, not realizing that there's a trail guy behind them. The guy pokes it free. They're so loose with the ball. I think Arkansas is going to get a lot of live ball turnovers in this one and be able to execute the fast break, which is one of the things they are good at this year. And then they're also a pretty good defensive rebounding team. So I think that's also going to backfire in Georgia. All these guys going to try to secure the board, and they're just going to be totally screwed on the break. And I think Arkansas can run away with this. If he can't lose six in a row, like at home,
Oh, you can't?
he could. I don't think he's going to.
I mean, like, I don't know what's stopping you. Yeah, it sounds like Arkansas is a talented team or something like that with all the like sons of former Kentucky players that Coach Cal has brought with him. But John L. Davis, we've talked about it offline. Like, he looks nothing like the Final Four run, John L. Davis, which honestly, you could argue that last year, the whatever FAU team it was that brought everyone back, they certainly didn't look like any sort of NCAA tournament team when I think they got blown out by Northwestern, if I remember correctly, in the first round of the NCAA tournament. I mean, Ivicic like seems like the weaker of the two brothers, despite I think being the bigger recruit. Brazil can never trust him to stay healthy. I feel like Fierro's been probably their best player, but is really hard to trust. The Boogie Fland and the Wagners and I feel like Knox's little brother looks completely lost every time he's out there. If you're talking about Georgia, like ball possession, I do think though to switch to the Georgia side, they can't play in the half court. They have no ability, I think, like to use their athleticism. They need an up and down, fast-paced game. Auburn was, I think, very intelligent not to give it to them, though I guess that's more Auburn style because they don't really force turnovers and like of course you'd see a lot of turnovers in an open game. I was impressed by Auburn. I thought that they played well without Janai Broom. I think the only thing for me here, though, did you make a pick on this one?
Woo pig.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Arkansas minus 2.5 as well. I think the home court's enough to do that, but there's a reason why they're only 2.5 point favorites to a Georgia darling-ish, but Georgia is 6 point underdog at close or 5.5, I think it was, to a Kentucky or excuse me, to an Auburn team that was out their best player and player of the year candidate. That doesn't seem like there's a lot of respect for Georgia in the marketplace, and maybe this is the time that Georgia shows up away from home. But I feel like we've also seen that to be a struggle so far this season. So we'll both go Arkansas minus 2.5. Thanks for hanging with us on the Need for Seeds College Basketball first weekday edition for the season. But we will be coming with you twice per week the rest of the season. Of course, we'll be with you on the Fridays as normal. Plus, we'll be doing a Tuesday episode next week and then Mondays from the rest of the season out. Before we get to our best bets on this episode, I want to give y'all a promo code to save some cash. So go use that promo code layup20, layup20, good for $20 off for all listeners to this college basketball podcast. Good for 7 days from the podcast release. You can use it on anything you'd like on the pregame.com website, but certainly would be best for maybe a daily package for Big East Ben or the real underscore G Warner across all social media, but Griffin Warner is my actual name on pregame. Use that promo code layup20, good for $20 off anything you want on the pregame.com website. Big East Ben, you want to give us your best bet?
Best bet. Like I said, Kansas unders 15-2 this season. TCU unders 11-6. Under 136 in Fort Worth.
That'll do it. So, Big East Ben under 136, Kansas at TCU. I'm going to lay the points with Ole Miss in that Texas A&M battle. I would suggest all of you to wait, potentially see if we could get three. I guess I'll lock in. Let's see if there's a better number out there. Please tell me. Someone tell me there's something out there on the marketplace that might be a little bit better than the current 3.5. But I think it's just one of those things where Wade Taylor is awesome, but I feel like he doesn't have a lot of help around him. Smaller team, certainly Ole Miss might be a little bit open for offensive rebounds, but at this point, I feel like they've played so well. Chris Beard is somebody I do trust. So let me get the Ole Miss Rebels 3.5 point favorites at home for our best bets. I think I'm 8-3 so far this year, so don't quote me on that. I'm looking it up and I didn't get to it before we got there. But keep joining with us, stay with us, use that promo code layup20. Go save some money on the pregame.com website and join us on Friday for a full rundown of the biggest games on the Saturday college basketball card. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on Friday for a Saturday card, and then we'll see you next week. See you twice per week the rest of the season. Have a good evening, win your bets, and good night.